Philadelphia, June 23, 1789. An 84-year-old man sits at his desk, body ravaged by gout and kidney stones, writing his final instructions. Not about electricity, not about politics, about money, and a rule so bizarre that nobody in the room understood what he was doing. Do not touch this money for 200 years. 2 centuries later, that single decision had generated $6.5 million, funded thousands of young Americans starting businesses, built technical schools that still train people today, and it all started with $4,000 and one mathematical secret that most people completely miss when they talk about compound interest. Because this isn't really a story about money growing. It's about engineering a legacy that survives human incompetence, political chaos, wars, depressions, and even the people who tried to steal it. Here's what you need to understand. By 1789, this man was already wealthy. He'd made his fortune decades earlier through printing, publishing, and real estate. He could have left everything to his family and been done with it. But he'd watched something his entire life. He'd watched families destroy fortunes in 2 generations, watched sons gamble away what fathers had built, watched daughters marry men who burned through inheritance like firewood. And he understood a truth that most people never grasp. Wealth doesn't disappear because there isn't enough of it. Wealth disappears because there's no architecture protecting it. So at 84, knowing he had maybe months to live, he added a codicil to his will, a mathematical time bomb. He left £1,000 to Boston, his birthplace, another £1,000 to Philadelphia, his adopted home. That's roughly $4,000 in colonial currency, about $140,000 in today's money. But here's where it gets interesting. The money came with instructions so specific, so surgical, that they created a system which would outlive empires. The rule: this money shall be loaned at 5% interest to young married craftsmen who have completed their apprenticeship and want to start their own business. Not a dollar can be touched by the cities for 100 years. After 100 years, you can take 75% and spend it on public works. Leave 25% alone for another century. 200 years total. He wrote this knowing he'd be dead for 73,000 consecutive days before anyone could fully access the money. Now most people hear this story and think, oh, compound interest, got it. Wrong. Compound interest is the engine, but that's not what makes this genius. What makes this genius is what he built around the engine. 3 layers of protection that most people completely miss. Layer 1, time as the filter. He didn't just say invest the money. He said loan it to young married craftsmen who finished apprenticeships. That's surgical. He's filtering for people who have already proven discipline. They stuck with something hard for years. They got married, which meant they had skin in the game, families depending on them. They wanted to start something, not inherit it. He wasn't looking for the luckiest people. He was looking for the most likely to succeed and pay the money back with interest. And here's the brutal part: most of them failed anyway. 9 out of 10 loans were never repaid, but it didn't matter, because the 10% who succeeded paid back enough to keep the fund growing. He built in a failure rate. He expected humans to mess up, and the system still worked. Layer 2, the harvest, not the hoard. After 100 years, he said take 75%, not 0, not 100%, exactly 75%. Why? Because he knew that money sitting untouched forever becomes a target. People fight over it. Politicians scheme for it. Heirs sue each other into oblivion. But if you program regular harvests, use some, protect some, you keep the tree alive while still eating the fruit. In 1890, Boston's fund had grown to $391,000. They took $322,000 and built what's now the Benjamin Franklin Institute of Technology, a trade school that's trained tens of thousands of people in skilled trades for over a century. The remaining money kept growing. By 1990, that 25% had ballooned to $4.5 million. Philadelphia's fund grew to $2 million by 1990. They used it for vocational training scholarships for high school graduates learning trades. 2 cities, $6.5 million from $4,000, all because the system said, use some now, protect the rest. Layer 3, purpose as the shield. Here's what nobody talks about. This fund survived the Civil War, the Great Depression, 2 world wars, political corruption, even direct theft attempts. In the 1800s, Boston politicians tried to raid the fund for pet projects. Courts blocked them. Why? Because the instructions were too specific. Young craftsmen starting businesses. You couldn't fake that without obvious fraud. The purpose acted like a legal fortress. It made theft hard and misuse obvious. Compare that to most inheritance. I leave my money to my kids. No rules, no mission, just cash up for grabs, and within 20 years it's gone. This fund had a mission harder to corrupt than the money itself. 04000615 The twist, what actually happened, reality check. Now here's where the story gets real, because it didn't go perfectly, not even close. Remember those loans to young craftsmen? 90% defaulted, borrowers died, businesses failed, records got lost. In Philadelphia, corruption almost destroyed the fund 3 times in the first 50 years. The Civil War happened, banking systems collapsed, interest rates went insane. There were decades where nobody could even figure out who was managing the money. And yet, the fund still grew, not as much as calculated. Those £130,000 projections per city. Boston hit it, Philadelphia, half that, but they both made millions anyway. Because here's the secret nobody tells you about long-term systems. They don't have to work perfectly. They just have to work better than human short-term thinking. The average inheritance lasts 1.5 generations. This fund lasted 200 years through incompetence, war, theft attempts, and financial collapse. That's not luck, that's architecture. You're not going to live 200 years. You probably don't have $4,000 to lock away for centuries, and compound interest alone won't save you if you're starting from zero. But you can steal the architecture. First, build systems that work without you. This man created rules that ran automatically. Loans to craftsmen, 5% interest, payback schedules, reinvestment protocols. The system didn't need him to babysit it. For you, if you're building wealth to pass on, don't just leave money, leave instructions. This money can only be used for education. This property must generate rental income. It cannot be sold. This business can only be transferred to someone who's worked in it for 5 years. Test, if you disappeared tomorrow, would your wealth keep working for 10 years, or would it get drained in 2? Second, program harvests, not hoarding. He didn't say never touch it. He said wait, then use 75%, keep 25%. For you, if you're building something long-term, a retirement account, a business, a property, program withdrawal rules before you need the money. I can access 4% a year after age 60. Profits get split, 50% reinvested, 30% distributed, 20% emergency fund. The discipline isn't in earning the money, it's in having rules for spending it that protect the source. Third, attach purpose to protect the principle. Money without mission gets stolen, by relatives, by taxes, by your own impulsive decisions. For you, every dollar you save should have a job title: emergency fund, 6 months expenses, house down payment, target 2027, kids' education cannot be touched before age 18. The more specific the purpose, the harder it is to raid for something dumb. Here's what haunts me about this story. This man died in 1790, his body decomposed, his brain turned to dust, his thoughts stopped existing. But 200 years later, young Americans in Boston and Philadelphia were getting loans to start businesses because of a decision he made when he was 84 and dying. The average person lives, consumes, and disappears. Within 3 generations, nobody even knows their name. But some people, rare people, engineer decisions that outlive them by centuries. Not because they had more money, because they understood something most never grasp. Your life is temporary, but your choices can be permanent. Every financial system you build today, a savings account with automatic deposits, a 401k with contribution rules, a trust with distribution guidelines, even a simple budget with spending limits, is a mini version of what he did. You're creating rules that will keep working after you stop caring, after you get lazy, after you die. That's the difference between accumulating and engineering. Most people think wealth is about how much you have. It's not. It's about what survives when you're not around to protect it. So here's my question for you. 200 years from now, what will still be working because of a decision you made today? Not your memory, not your reputation, not even your name. What system, what structure, what rule that keeps running whether you're there or not? Because that's the real measure of wealth, not what you accumulate, what you architect. He planted a mathematical seed in 1790. 2 centuries later, it was still feeding people. What are you planting today?